Okay, everybody, hi. We're the admins from the FlatEarthConspiracy.com group on Facebook and on YouTube. And my name is Lori, and we have the other admins from the group. We have one sort of trying to get on with her smartphone who's having a little problem, Sophie. But we have Jamie in the hot seat. And say hi, Jamie, so that your picture pops up there.
Hi, Jamie.
And then we have Jim Galliano, who is my significant other boyfriend slash BFF art person. And he is our webmaster and web designer and otherwise geek squad for the Flat Earth conspiracy community, at least in our group. So welcome, Jim.
Hello.
And we probably are going to have a little bit of slow bandwidth, and so maybe some graininess and so on because we're having a little bit of bandwidth problems, but that's how it goes, so carry on. So hi, everybody out there in Flat Earth Conspiracy Land, and this is the first show we've done with the admins, and actually the first time I've, except for a few minutes, spoken to Jamie online, on air, I guess, other than bitching back and forth inside the inbox about who's posting what goober stuff today or whatever like that. So I'm going to start off with saying this. Okay, Sophie just emailed me, so I can't seem to find the Gmail on her smartphone. So let me Gmail her again. Sorry for this difficulty, but I think this might finally work. No, that's not it. Okay. Jamie, why don't you tell people how you became a flat earther to get this show rolling while I try to get Sophie on here.
All right. Well, it really just started with someone mentioned something about the moon landings being faked, and this person didn't believe it. But I started looking into it, and before I even got into any depth, I saw this video thumbnail of, I think it's under the Jesuit order, talking about satellites aren't real, and I was like, what? This guy must be crazy. I thought it was just completely ridiculous. So I watched the video, I'm like, huh, it's interesting. So I actually searched for pictures of satellites, pictures of Earth, and I saw that there really aren't any. They're all CGI. So then I just started looking into it more, and the more I looked into it, the more I realized that there's no proof for the globe, and that everything I did find pointed to the Earth being flat. So that's how it started.
And when you got started doing your research, what was the typical avenue that you took to find this information? I mean, everybody who does flat Earth research typically hits YouTube pretty much first and foremost, and all of the top tier guys, as I call them, that do make all the videos and so on. Did you do any other independent type of looking as far as not through the word of mouth of any of these other people?
Well, first, like you're saying, YouTube, I come across a few different videos, different for the top people, and they got me interested in it. So then I bought a really nice zoom camera, actually the same camera you have now, and started testing, seeing how far I could zoom. I went to a place called World's Edge in Hendersonville, North Carolina, and when I zoomed across, I think it's 2,800 feet high in altitude, and I could see the Duke Energy Tower in Charlotte, which is 80 miles away. So then that kind of confirmed it for me. I was like, okay, now I'm actually seeing with my own eyes things that are evidence of it actually being flat and not a globe. And then after that, I started looking at shadows and the sun. And to me, everything now, anything I see, it's obvious. It's like I feel embarrassed that I didn't even notice it sooner. I didn't question it.
Well, I think that's pretty classic. To go through sort of the embarrassment of, God, I can't believe they punked me so badly. But when you realize that from the time you walk into school for the first time, and some of the earliest information that is brought to your education is the globe and the spinning globe on the teacher's desk. My classroom had planets suspended based on their size across the ceiling. I had a real Intuit science teacher with that, and we learned the names of the planets. All of that global indoctrination is started very young, and then as we go along, one of the things that I'm noticing in the flat earth community is the lack of 20 and under people who are getting involved in flat earth. It's a total missing void of people. And I know they're not real hot on Facebook as much as us old folks are. And I know that they sort of have a whole different level and mode of communication than we do. They're into Twitter and texting and all that stuff. But their indoctrination must be pretty solid, because their entire lives they grew up inside the space programs and all of the NASA.
Yeah, and a lot of it might have to do with, because they're younger, they're more worried about what people are thinking about them. So they might not even want to look into it if they hear something about it, because their friends are going to think they're crazy. And us being older, we're not as worried about what people think anymore as we used to be.
Right. Okay, Jim, I want to. Jim got into flat Earth the same time I did, obviously, because we both, we lived together, so we both started talking about it and investigating it, and every time I get excited about something in the truth movement or whatever, my first thing I do is, Jim, you got to buy me this website, and you got to put me a website, or this domain name, and you got to put me a website together, and I'm all whole hog, full force at him. And of course he does that because he's super, and so most of the truthy stuff that he's gotten involved in since he met me has been just because he's hearing it all the time. But he also saw it too, and I know that a lot of people have problems with their significant other not being a flat earther, or if they're single and they're looking for, a boyfriend, girlfriend, one of their big hopes, obviously, is going to be that person is also a flat earther, or at least open-minded enough that they don't call you crazy and want to lock you up. So, Jim, when you first got involved in flat earth, actually it's the first time I've ever interviewed Jim about this too, so this is kind of weird. When you first heard about flat earth, you're not a conspiracy person very much. Maybe Jesse James, or who was that, Billy the Kid, that you had a big conspiracy thing?
The brushy Bill Roberts, Billy the Kid conspiracy was my first really jump all in.
Okay. So tell people, tell the folks what your take on the flat Earth movement is, and outside of your association with me, and what you think should be happening, and what you think people should be doing, and so on.
Well, for me, I started with the basics, and getting into the flat Earth was good for me. At least in the beginning, it was, because I'm in the internet marketing website space. I've built over 200 websites since the late 90s, and I'm in an industry that, you sell what people are buying. And so to be able to get away from that and get into something that's a little more, or a lot more organic and real to life, the first thing that caught my attention was the fact that you couldn't measure curvature. And it just wasn't there. And that was the first baby step that I took looking into flat Earth. And then from there, I went a little bit further and a little bit further. And one question mark just led to another, to another, to another, until I just realized that even if you're an amateur scientist, the information that they're passing off as fact has to be fiction, because none of these so-called truths or facts are replicatable. You can't measure the curvature of the Earth. So that was really the one thing that got me hooked, because I really didn't care, are we living under a dome, or how big is it? The fact that it wasn't round was the first thing I was able to accept. So the fact that I couldn't answer the other questions didn't erase that fact, and that was the starting point for me. I know that you were going to do all the research anyway, so I was able to, I'm able to cheat in
You
a way.
cheated and went by like some form of osmosis and just sucked
Well, I
up
knew
all
you
my
would
research.
put,
That's
like you
so
always,
not fair.
well, I knew you were going to put hundreds and hundreds of hours into this, so all I needed to do from that point on was to ask questions to get the cliff notes. And so here we are. So I'm really glad we do have the flatearthconspiracy.com. And a lot of people accused you of being what would you call it, a capitalist or whatever
A
that you,
domain name thief,
yeah.
Dubé. Dubé, it wasn't a lot of people. It was Dubé and his henchmen were the only ones who really gave a rat's butt about whether he had the opportunity to buy the domain name, and he didn't. So when I came along and that domain name was available, I didn't even know he wrote a book. I hadn't read the book, but thanks for bringing up that little tidbit to clear that up once again.
I just
Because
didn't know the keyword. I keyword researched the whole
yeah,
thing.
you were the one who
the one
I said, "What's the best domain name I can buy for Flat Earth?" And you ran the diagnostics or whatever it is, analytics or whatever it is you do, and you said the words Flat Earth and conspiracy are the words. So that led to that.
That led to that.
So that's where we are. And so anyway. Another thing that is, that I wanted to talk about, since we're admins, and we're trying to run a group of the most broad spectrum, independent, vociferous bunch of people that you could ever put together for anything, and that is the Flat Earth community. There's no link, no tie, no comparison, no commonality, except for they all believe the Earth is flat and don't believe it's a spinning ball. And there's one of the things that we've had issues with, if there is such a thing, it is the drama that has gotten associated with the Flat Earth community about whose theory is most correct, who's the top dog and should be we all have agreed that we're not into leaders, and that's been settled way a long time ago. But people still argue about whose theory is right. Is there a dome? Is there no dome? Is there an infinite plane? What does infinite plane even mean? All of those sorts of things. So, Jamie, if you were to give a new flat earther, and even somebody who's been doing it for months, researching it for months and believes in it wholeheartedly, if you were to give them some advice about not just how to act in a group or whatever, because that's what ties us together, but how to best influence the rest of the people that they come in contact with about a positive spin on flat earth.
Well, positive, that's the key word. I would say positive and not argue, because that's not going to do any good. Once they realize someone's either pushing back, just encourage them to look into it for themselves. That's mainly what I was saying. Look into it for yourself, because that's really the only thing you can do if someone's just not open to it.
Well, because part of our indoctrination process all the way through our lives, especially if you're American, has been what is trending, all about the follower culture, who's the rock star, who's the football star, so on and so on, and being a part of the crowd, and Flat Earth doesn't have that associated with it. And so in order for each individual person to come to their own conclusion about what the Flat Earth means to them, or how much they want to get involved in the Flat Earth community, is simply not following the crowd and watching and listening and reading as many different things as you possibly can. And every time you find an anomaly in something, a picture you see on NASA, or a photograph of the sunset, or a picture of the moon, and it creates a brainstorm in you, you need to go directly to dig into the information that surrounds whatever it is that tweaked your interest, and not just have to decide, am I a Matthew Powerland follower? Am I an Eric Dubay follower? Am I a Mark Sargent follower? You're no follower. There's no following. We don't do following, okay? And because since I got involved, which was back in March, there's been a big upset, I guess you would call it, in the hierarchy of the big names of Flat Earth, and a lot of new people have sort of risen up with levels of experiments and so on. I mean, Jamie is, for example, is getting to be fairly well known with moon photography and distance photography, has an awesome camera and makes good use of it. And you know, we all have our own interests. Some people are interested in the moon, some in the sun, some in the stars, some in just plain NASA only. They're not interested in any of that. But the main thing that everybody needs to concern themselves with is the big question: what difference does it make, and how does it change anything? And I want you to answer your version of that, Jamie.
I don't really have a good answer. I mean, people ask me that all the time, and I'm kind of like, this is what you're being taught. This is what your kids are being taught. It's all lies. It's just the truth, and you should want to know the truth, even if it doesn't affect you. To me, anyways, I want to know the truth. Like, yeah, I don't really have a really good answer for that.
Jim, what's your answer?
Well, we've been fed pseudoscience all our lives, and to me, I've looked at some of the research and the writings from people from the early 19th century and a little bit before that time, before round Earth was actually popular. It seems, from my vantage point, because I grew up with this my whole life, that everybody's always believed that the world was round, and that the model that they currently sell us, because that's all I ever saw. But historically, it's not so. And you can actually go back and read some of the publications from like 1900, 1901, 1910, in which some of the most brilliant minds of the day, people that were recognized in their fields, were behind Flat Earth. But these writings and these opinions have just been edited from our modern media almost. I mean, you have to really dig to find these publications. Some people have turned them into PDFs and shared them online. So, I mean, the whole world is revolving around so many lies that you could dig into any niche you want to and find them. So I think this is a good foundation to start with. Not proving what shape the world is, but proving that it's not the round ball that we've been seeing pictures of for the last, 60 years or whatever it's been.
Well, I mean,
the oldest picture of the Earth is how old?
the first moon landing, what it was 1970, no.
72?
Yeah, 1972, right?
Right.
So.
Okay. And so, I want to answer my own question myself about what is it? What difference does it make? Why? How does it change anything? Because I've been asked that question probably more than any other question, except how does this sun work and do you fall off the edge? I mean, God love them. What it means to me, as far as how does it change anything, what difference does it make, is so immense as to be. I mean, I could talk on that subject alone for hours, and that is, if we suddenly can get the people to understand that the world is not a globe and it is flat, whether it has a dome over it, whether it has an infinite, none of that part is explorable yet, but that it's flat and it's not a spinning ball. Everything about our world is altered dramatically, okay? Everything from our educational system to our science system to our NASA and space programs, our military, how you shoot a gun and you don't have to take the Coriolis effect into consideration, who controls the globe, controls the flat plane. Is it the same? Will it be the same? Once people understand that the liars are liars and have been lying on top of lying for centuries, how do you trust any of those people ever again? Is it time then for us to reinvent ourselves, our government, our belief systems? I mean, it touches every single thing. It is the most epic conspiracy in the history of mankind, in my opinion. So when someone says, what difference does it make or why does it matter? I literally get goosebumps out of, I don't know whether it's anger or frustration or what it is, but I really just want to shake them and say, just stop and listen to what you're saying. What difference does it make if the Earth is a globe spinning through space or whether it's a flat, fixed plane? How can you even ask that question, what difference does it make? Okay? So that's how important it is to me. And, you know, am I passionate? Am I overly passionate? Perhaps. Most probably. Most definitely. But if I can be a part, a catalyst in getting people to understand the truth of the magnitude of the lies that have been perpetrated on humanity for the last several hundred years, then I will feel like I can die now and I can move on and I'm finished and I can smile and I can just go out and lay in the yard and pet the cat. I mean, that's how big the difference is to me. So this is why I, spend all this energy being in a group and being an admin and forming associations and putting blitzes together and coordinating people and everything else. Do I want to be a leader? Absolutely freaking not. Okay? No. What I want to be is I want to be one of those people that says, we're walking, walk this way. Here we go. We're going over here. We're going to learn about this and we're going to think about that. And we're going to be responsible for each and every one of ourselves independently and collectively, because until we do that, until we understand that, just keep on keeping on the same old crap we've been doing for hundreds of years, and it's not working. So that was a little rant. Every once in a while I have one of those. So, Jamie, if you had the opportunity to be given $100,000 grant from whoever, federal government, for instance, like big scientists get, or NASA or somebody, how would you spend it on doing some kind of an epic experiment for Flat Earth?
That's a good question. I don't know. I know Mr. Thrive and Survive doing that balloon experiment. That would be definitely something I would want to do at night, just get the sun and the moon in the same video, proving that you can't possibly see the moon because on the other side of the Earth if it's a globe. And the other option would be to go to Antarctica, to actually just traverse it north to south, south to north, all the way.
Jimmy, what would you do?
Well, I don't know. $100,000. This probably wouldn't get me too high, but in the air I'm talking about. If I had a way of taking a photograph from space, I don't know what the definition of space actually is, but being in an airplane, I know that you can see for so many miles looking out the window until that point of convergence occurs where the horizon line meets that end and you can't see any further. So how high would that be? 60,000? Is that 60,000 feet? 30,000 feet that an airplane is at maximum? I'm not sure.
Well, no, I think 70,000. I've heard that supersonic, whatever it is. Forgot.
Okay, so if there was a way to double or triple that, I would like to be able to photograph what can be seen from that height. Because
you mean like the ISS is supposed to be able to be doing, but
yeah, absolutely.
Do it except for green screen or whatever the heck that is, where they're flying over with fake lights and fake clouds and fake
If you've never been in an airplane before, which we have, when you look down, on a good scenario would be you can see some land and you can see how it's the different colors, maybe where there's farmland or something like that. But the higher that you get, it seems that the clouds obscure just about everything. So my thinking is, if you got at the maximum capable height, you probably wouldn't see anything but clouds. So from there, what would you be able to do? You'd be able to either go in one direction or another. So if you went as far as you could go without crashing.
You mean sideways? Go up and then go sideways as far as you could go?
Yeah, parallel to the ground.
Oh, okay.
So whether you're heading
sooner or later you'd have to run into Antarctica.
Well, yeah, I would like to see what you run into, because I have a feeling that nobody knows how far it goes. I mean, maybe.
Well, I kind of think somebody knows how far it goes, but they're not telling.
Maybe the ice begins and just never ends, and they just can't get any further. So if you took the ball model and you stretched it out like that circle, but just kept the circle going into as far as you could go, eventually you would get to the point in temperature-wise where all equipment would freeze up, all motors would stop working, and you're basically done.
Or you'd end up in that other pond over there that perhaps exists, and everything gets nice and temperate again, and those Eden people are still hanging out over there. Or
well, people have tried already on the ground to
Atlantis.
do it. Yeah. They've tried to do it using what we've had so far since, what was his name? The explorer from the...
Admiral Byrd?
Admiral Byrd, right. So, he got so far. And if he could have gone any further, he probably would have. So whatever's there, just stretch it out using the flat Earth model, and it's either too cold to go any further, or what's there won't let you go any further, or something like that. But I'd like to see it. If I had that grant, getting back to your question, I would like to see it from a bird's eye view, if there's such a thing.
Well, okay. If I had a $100,000 grant, I have a special interest in how we see, how our eyes work. And ever since I did the Red Boat video, that was the biggest fluke that probably ever was. We went there that day to take a couple of friends up here in Florida. We met up in Tampa Bay, and we were going to use their telescopes to look across and see if we could see each other with the two telescopes, and measure to see if there was any visible curvature. Well, telescopes don't work very well over land, as well as they do looking up at the sky at night, particularly. So I had my diddly little video camera, and I saw this tanker cargo ship headed down the inland waterway there towards Tampa. And so I started following it with the camera. And I decided I wasn't going to turn the camera off until I totally lost sight of the boat, until it was just too far away for the camera to focus on it, which turned out to be about 11 miles. And as it turns out, I uploaded the video straight out of the camera, didn't edit, didn't add any voiceovers, nothing. And it just went over 25,000 views on YouTube. And I still don't know why, other than the fact that the camera shows the clearest reality that that boat did not go over any curvature. It didn't disappear from view except for the fact that the camera just couldn't see any farther. And it disappeared from the bottom up, just like they always say in the arguments. The boat goes over the horizon and it disappears from the bottom up, and that's how it would do if it was going over the curvature of the earth. And when it reappears over the horizon, it appears from the top down, and then the bottom appears. And I thought, if there's any way to debunk that, that's what I want to do. So with my $100,000, I would make a documentary, and I would invite and interview every optometrist, ophthalmologist, ocularist, whatever they're called, and I would determine without a doubt that I'm correct about how the eye sees and how the horizon line appears and how and why it's always straight. You see, I'm one of those people, I differ from a lot of other people. I'm one of those people who does not think you're ever going to see any curvature, not because there's no curvature, but because your eyes can't see curvature. Your eyes only focus on a straight line. And when you have two elements that come together, it is known as the line of convergence. When you have sea and sky, or land and sky coming together, with that place where they meet is called the horizon line, but it's also called the line of convergence, where these two elements are hitting. You don't see that when you look up into the sky at night to look at the moon. And that's why it seems like you can see so much farther with a telescope, because there's only one element, sky. If you go under the water, you feel like you can see forever because you're in one element, the water. But then when you look off and you see the sand on the bottom, the sand and the water now are two elements again, another line of convergence. So I want to do a documentary that proves not only do we see, like we're looking out looking into the bottom of a pyramid, and that vanishing point is created because the two sides come in together, and the top and bottom comes in together, and that is the way our eyes literally see. So the reason why I'm so convinced about this is because the Illuminati uses the pyramid as their sort of secret aha thing, like, we got you on this. This is something we know you don't know, and you ain't never going to know because you're not in the secret circle. And if you look on the back of your dollar bill, you will see the pyramid shape, and you will also see Ordo Novo Seclorum or Seclorum or whatever that is, that says it basically says a new world order, and the top of the pyramid is lifted off, and there's light coming out of the inside of the pyramid. That is the illumination. So I want to prove that our eyes are never going to see curvature, that the horizon line is always at eye level because it's your freaking eyes that are making it. And no matter how high you go or how low you go, it's always going to be at eye level. That being said, hello, Sophie. Let's hope to goodness that you have audio. Oh, no audio. think, okay, well, you stay on and stay with us, okay, and at least be here. Something's wrong with Sophie's audio. She's tried multiple times, and her smartphone's out of memory and every other kind of problem. So welcome, and I'm sorry. The next time we get together, it's going to be the Sophie show, and you're going to make up for all the time, okay? So, so everybody, this is Sophie, who is one of the other admins on FlatEarthConspiracy.com Facebook group. So that's my experiment, and one of the reasons why I wanted to mention this is because it has put me at odds with some people in the flat Earth community that I am so against this fallacy that we're going to see curvature, because the curvature that we see is always made from a camera. It is not, or it is always implemented by NASA or whoever. And when we go really high and we see what looks like curvature, it is actually as far as our eyes can see in a circle, okay? So because I'm a little different on that, and because I don't harp on where's the curvature, I hope I've met some other people who agree with my analysis of why, Eric Dubay always talks about no matter how high you go, the horizon is always at eye level. It always will be, no matter how high you go. Now, would the Earth fall away from you if it was the ball? It sure would. But we're never going to see that because it's not. And we're never going to be able to experience that because the only way we could is because it would be a fake experience, a fake camera anomaly or whatever. What do you think about that, Jamie? I've seen you nod your head a couple times. You agree with that at all?
Oh yeah, completely. But no matter how high you go, if it were a ball, actually, I believe if it were a ball and your horizon was 3 miles away because of curvature, as soon as you started gaining altitude, your horizon would slowly start going down. Right at that point, it would have to go down. Because,
if it were a ball.
Yeah, if it were a ball. And it doesn't,
right.
No matter how high you go.
Right, it doesn't. So when people think, that I'm a turncoat because I say you can't see curvature and you're never going to see curvature because it's not there to see, okay, that's part of the problem, is that I can't help you fake what you might be able to see if it were there. That's the problem with trying to visually prove flat Earth curvature, okay? So I think you did a video, Jamie, of you put the camera on the ground, and the horizon line was at eye level of the camera.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And then
explain your thoughts on that. And it's the same thing with the table. Putting the camera on the table, the horizon line is on the table, right?
Yeah. Most people, you generally know that the horizon is about 3 miles away, roughly, 3 point something miles. But if you get lower, that horizon gets closer and closer and closer. And of course, in my video, there's grass, just like there's, if you look at an ocean, there's waves. And just a small height is completely going to obstruct something in the distance. But it's clear that when you, am I not loud enough?
No, you're not quite loud enough. You're a little muty sounding, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, in the video I made, when you see me walking away, you see my whole body is eventually would just completely be gone, just like a ship going over the ocean. But
right.
Then I bring
but we know you're not gone, and we know you didn't go over the curvature because you only walked away, what, 20 feet to 40 feet?
It was actually maybe 100 or so feet. But yeah, as soon as I brought the camera up, you could see that the ground was a flat ground. It may not have been perfectly flat and smooth, but it was very flat.
But it didn't even have as much of a mound as like a pitcher's mound or anything in it.
Right.
It was pretty flat. Yeah. Okay.
It was maybe an inch or so high in different places. I mean, it was almost perfectly flat. And certainly not enough to cover 4.5 foot of my body.
Okay, one more thing I want to talk about that it seems that people are really, really hung up on. and that is the disappearance of the sun and how it sets and rises and why you can't see it anymore on the flat Earth. Even flat earthers are sort of baffled about that. They're not fully wrapped around that. So one of the explanations that I have used is that the sun is close, and somebody just pinged me. This time no audio. Third time's a charm. Okay, you gonna leave again and come back, Sophie? Okay, so so the sun, as it moves across the plane, okay, and you know, people talk about the vastness of the size of the Earth's surface, okay, whether it's on a ball or whether it's stretched out like a blanket, it's still the same amount of square footage or square mileage or whatever you want to call it, okay. So if the sun's doing this circle around the Earth, and, you know, people will argue that. Some people say, oh, it comes in from one end and it goes out the other, and tomorrow it comes back from that end and it goes out that way. And I'm sorry, I can't wrap my mind around that one. But what I can wrap my mind around is if the sun is local, and what I mean by local, as in it's in our atmosphere, which I like to call atmosphere plane now. But if it's in our atmosphere, then, and it's supposedly, according to many people who have the astrolabes or the equipment to measure it, or even the mathematics, that it's 3,000 miles away, approximately, and 32 to 35 miles across, both the sun and the moon. So, do you have audio, Sophie? Okay, I was hearing something new. So if the sun and moon are 32 to 35 miles across and 3,000 miles above us, okay, that makes them quite local. And you can see how local they are when the sun sets, and I invite anyone who doesn't understand this to go out and literally watch a sunset. Get off the couch, turn off the TV, go watch a sunset and go watch a sunrise. And I guarantee you what you'll see. You will see the sun appear the light from the sun is going to appear like this. And as it gets closer to you, the light is going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Not the whole horizon lighting up like you would expect it if it was 93 million miles away. Okay? So if the sun is that close, you're not going to be able to see its full light once it goes past the horizon line, once it goes past the point of convergence I was talking about earlier, any more than you would be able to see the light in the living room all the way down the hallway to your bedroom, okay? Because light doesn't bend the way they say it does, and it doesn't have to, okay? Because as it disappears from your view over the line of convergence, its light is also disappearing. And if it goes 10,000 miles away to the other side of the circle, you're not going to see its light. Okay? It's just that simple.
Yeah,
and anyone who doesn't get that, they really need to go and stand and watch the sun and the moon and the sun and the moon day after day until they get it. Because you got to get that, or you're really not a dedicated flat earther.
Yeah, most people don't understand that light isn't infinite ever. Light is never infinite. And
light is never infinite. No.
Yeah, well, that's how time zones work. Because once the sun's far enough away, it's dark here. And just can't see the actual
and that's why people are having so many issues with the sun and the moon. In July of this year, the sun and the moon were in the same sky, visible on 5 continents, 21 days out of the month of July. The sun and the moon both visible on 5 continents. Okay? Now, you tell me how that works when the moon's supposed to be on the other side of the round ball Earth, when the sun is on this side, and vice versa. Okay, it might be possible sometimes during the year, but 21 days in a row, in July, no, I'm sorry, there's no season like that. There's no sun-moon season. I don't remember ever looking at the, astrology calendar to see the sun-moon season. So it's the same difference with when people say, well, how come there's eternal day in, Alaska, and they can see the sun all day long, okay, in some form or another? Well, because as the sun makes its circuit around the Earth, around the surface of this plane, during some of the seasons, it's circling over the inside of the circle. And on the other ends of the seasons, it's circling on the outside of the circle, and it transitions back and forth between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. And that's why certain parts of the Earth can see it longer in the day and longer at night. You really, in order to get this, you have to deprogram your entire educational learning, indoctrination of all of the crap that they dumped in there your entire childhood and your whole adult life, and you have to forget that and start all over. And there's no getting around that, because what they said is the opposite of how it works. The opposite. You can't entertain that kind of a paradox in your mind and be able to agree with both of those theories, that the spinning ball and the flat Earth. You can't do it. It doesn't work. You can entertain it, but you can't believe it. You can't know it.
Maybe that's how they got the idea for record albums and CDs. The information starts from the outside, or starts from the inside.
Talk about feedback. What happened to you?
I don't know. Nothing changed.
Sophie did something.
Oh, did I do something? Can you hear me now?
Oh my gosh!
You can hear me?
You're here.
Add feedback.
Okay, everybody, let Sophie talk. Hi, Sophie.
Yeah.
What happened now?
I don't know. Are you still there?
There's the feedback.
Oh, darn.
Oh well.
So the feedback's coming as our voice go out
Back
through
to her computer. Right. Yeah, classic.
Okay, I'll turn it off.
All right, you're gonna have to turn the sound off.
Sorry.
The volume. Let's see. How do we fix this?
Headphones are doing.
Oh, she doesn't have any headphones.
I have headphones somewhere. I just don't know where.
Okay, for next time you're gonna have to. All right, we're gonna have to turn your volume. Let me mute you, Sophie. I'm gonna mute you. Okay. Now, can you hear? Can you hear us still? Nod.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, darn. I thought I was gonna have like a dissertation from Sophie there for a minute. So these are the issues that are bogging everybody down. When you get involved in flat Earth, you don't have to understand every single part of it in order to know that the Earth is not a spinning ball, okay? How all the rest of the parts of it work are something that you learn over time. You can't jack yourself in like in the Matrix and just download all this stuff and just like come out and go, oh my God, I know how to fly a helicopter. Okay, you can't do that. It doesn't work that way. It's a process. Just like your entire lifetime of learning was a process, but what you were getting taught was indoctrination and not the truth, not reality. And when people say, why would they want to do that? Why would they do that to us? Okay? Because of control. look how in control we all are by the system that we're trapped in, and there's only one way to do that. Sophie, you got your audio back on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Oh.
You unmuted yourself.
Is there a lot of feedback still?
No, there's none.
No? Oh my gosh, I just turned the video off. And now we have sound.
Oh, awesome. Okay, you have to catch up real fast on a couple questions. Okay. Why is it important for everybody to know what difference does it make if the Earth is round or flat, and why should it matter to anyone?
It's like a paradigm shift. It's a form of, your mindset. If you believe that the universe is infinite and we're just a speck of dust floating in an infinite universe, and life seems kind of meaningless that way. It all ties into the Big Bang, and knowing that the Earth is flat, it just makes you feel like there's a creator, that we're here for a purpose. Life is important. This is all there is. There isn't any life on other planets. We are like it's not arrogant. It's just knowing that there's more. How can I say it? We're just more. Sorry, you caught me off guard. I wasn't.
That's okay. That's okay. You're doing fine. Okay, so what difference should it make to people? How should they feel any different about it being flat Earth rather than being a spinning globe?
Well, then they can, understand that, yeah, there is a creator, and, they can get in touch with their spiritual side instead of just the material side that the globe Earth promotes.
Cool. Okay, and when you became involved in Flat Earth, what was the path that you took, and what would you recommend for other people to do, place to follow, research to do, whatever like that? What would you recommend for new people becoming involved in Flat Earth? And for those who have been doing it for a long time, what would you recommend too?
Just keep researching independently. Like, you can't let anyone else tell you what is what. You have to sort of find it out on your own. You have to have that inquisitive nature. You have to want to know the truth. If you don't have that, then, you might as well just believe in the globe Earth, because, you're happy and content with the way things are, and why bother? You're just letting people pull the wool over your eyes. So yeah, you just have to do the research independently. And now we're so lucky with the internet, it's all at our fingertips. There's so many videos out there. Of course, you can't always believe everything you see on YouTube. You have to have a sort of discernment as to what is, real and what is not. You need a good basis of wanting to know the truth, and then the truth will follow.
One of the other questions that we talked about, or questions that I posed, was if you were given a $100,000 grant by the government or some rich guy or lady or whatever, and how would you spend that $100,000 to help promote Flat Earth?
Well, if I had $100,000, I'd probably want to go to Antarctica just to see for myself. I know they don't really allow you to go inland, but I would want to take a tour with the existing tour companies that are out there, and I would want to see, for example, the daylight hours, to see if in December, for example, if the sun doesn't actually set in Antarctica. I mean, I think.
We might have just lost you.
I think we lost you again.
I think I lost you there.
Oh, there you are.
There?
Yeah, now you
Sorry
are.
about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think
So
we
go to
just need,
Antarctica and take the regular Disney tour of Antarctica.
well, I'd like to do more, but I guess, I mean, I'd like to see how far, how far they'd let us go, what the limits are. But I'd like to recruit a group of people and, explorers and see for ourselves what's actually out there. That would be the smoking gun for me.
I mean, I agree with that too. That's one of the things that a lot of people have proposed. Part of the problem is that gosh darn Antarctica Treaty, which in and of itself should be a red flag for a whole lot of people. That we have governments. What is it like? 40, 50 governments or 70 governments around the world that have signed on to this treaty to keep anyone and everyone out of there except for a few scientists and then it's been just pushed back to 2040 that the treaty's been. Yet these same countries fight and argue and bicker and bomb each other day after day, year after year. And it's like, I'm sorry, I know about the keep your friends close and your enemies closer, but why would they agree on something so important, even though they think they're trying to make us think it's not important? Oh, it's just this little ice cube down on the bottom of the world, and it matters not. And but it also includes the Arctic, the North Pole, so to speak. There's a no-fly zone there as well. So that's been one of the things I've been saying from the time I got involved in this. One of the first things that got me involved in this was that Antarctica Treaty, and the fact that it didn't make any sense to me that what are you trying to keep people away from? I mean, Admiral Byrd said there was more resources there than there is in the entirety of North America, more land there than the entirety of North America. Why are we bombing each other for oil if there's oil there? Why are we bombing each other for, political purposes, but yet we can hold hands and sing Kumbaya together down in Antarctica? Problem. So anyway, this has been a really cool first hangout and for the admins, and I thank you guys for kind of throwing this together. We just decided to do this yesterday, so I don't want to burn up a whole lot of time. We've hit on several topics, and I know all of us could go on and on and on forever. So I want each of us to have a little closing something to say, and then we'll get off here. Jimmy, you go first.
Well, the one thing I was going to say before that I didn't get a chance to say was how engineers don't have to, in their formulas, whether it's the largest bridge in the world or the tallest building or even the Wall of China, none of the engineers involved, well, I can't speak for the Wall of China, but the Earth curvature is never accounted for in any of the mathematics of any of these designs. That alone should send up a red flag. That was one of the things I wanted to add earlier, but I forgot to. So in closing, I would just say that there's different parts of the whole flat Earth topic that some people will be more open to than others. For example, just talking about the curvature not being accounted for with structural engineers. I mean, that some people would be open to that. Other people would say, well, that I don't understand structural engineering. I don't know any engineers. I've never thought about that type of thing. With other people, it's measuring curvature. With others, there's so many topics within the topic that if you just know a little bit about a lot of them, you can have an open door. So that's what I would say is good. You don't have to be an expert in this. Maybe it's impossible to be in this lifetime. There's just too much that we don't know. But there are some ways that you can open up a conversation without looking like a total nut, And so just be aware of those.
So you're saying have a specialty that you're well versed in or feel like an expert in that you can talk to people about, but you don't have to do that with every aspect of the whole plane.
Know enough that people will ask a question. If they question what they think is true, then that's the first step in changing how somebody thinks.
Okay. Jamie?
Yeah, like you said, you would, with your $100,000 grant, you would actually have the eyes studied and do interviews and stuff with the eyes. Like, that's what you're saying. Perspective, I think, is extremely important because it explains so many different aspects of flat Earth. How the horizon is created through perspective, how the sun can appear to rise and set, and the moon to rise and set because of perspective. Ships going over the horizon, I mean, there's so many things that are dependent on perspective. Because I'm constantly seeing myself. Someone will ask me a question, why is this? I'm like, there's a perspective. It explains so many different things. So I think if we could totally prove, or at least have some experiments or something that totally give a good example of perspective, better than my video. I thought my video was a good example, but something that proves beyond a doubt that perspective does create the horizon, that would be able to open people up to it more.
You know, I've seen many times when I go into either these chat places or NASA NASA websites or Facebook pages or whatever. I'm one of those people who constantly goes into there because I like to drop little trinkets of truth about flat Earth on these sites. And we just did a blitz, a NASA media blitz, just a few days ago, and was hugely successful. And I'm actually still getting notifications in my Google about people responding to, still calling me an idiot days later for my comments. But it's interesting because if you use the word perspective, boy, I mean, that freaks them out every time. I mean, they think, oh yeah, every time you use the word perspective, because it's perspective, and you can't hide behind that forever. Oh, well, why can you hide behind your ISS or your NASA or your globe-licking other ideas? You know, I'm sorry, but it is perspective. It's perspective a lot about what we see. So we are going to be doing another, not just another, many more of those Spam-A-Lot kind of NASA Spam-A-Lot programs in the coming months, because they're effective. And if you even get one person, to go, maybe they're right, because if you put something on there, I mean, we bombed the place with hashtag #FreeOurFlatEarth all over the place. Me and a whole bunch of other people did that. And as a matter of fact, if you now Google #FreeOurFlatEarth, you get Brian Cox's Facebook page saying, delete these #FreeOurFlatEarth comments at the top of the Google search, which is pretty funny because they're like, #FreeOurFlatEarth. But so in closing, what do you got? Sophie, are you audible?
I hope so.
Good.
You guys can hear me still?
What did
I
you close with?
I just say, just don't become complacent, to all those flat earthers out there, because there's, a lot of negative feedback from family and friends and strangers, telling us we're idiots and we're morons and uneducated, and just have some, just get that thick skin going on, and don't become complacent. Keep up the fight for truth. Don't be ashamed, and eventually, the truth will win out, and we'll have the last laugh.
Very true, because what was it, the one that people started having their comments removed? Soon everyone will know, or something like that. Everyone will know. Soon everyone will know the truth, or something like that. These people kept getting all their comments removed, or by Facebook that said, you can't use that term. It's like, what? Soon everyone will know, and we know that they're going to know because we're not going to stop until they do, because it's the truth, and people should know the truth. And the people who are complacent will be, the sheeple, I guess you call it, the ones who, what difference does it make? Why does it matter? Those people are going to be those people forever, no matter what the truth is. I mean, they're just always going to not give a crap, okay? And they're just, I'm going to do my job. I got to do my job. I got to feed my kids. I got to wash my car, okay? You're right. You do. You have to do all that. We all have to do all that. And then what? Okay? You want to live in Hunger Games here pretty soon? Because that's where we're headed if we don't stop this machine that's perpetuating itself. So thank you guys very much for taking the time to do this hangout with me. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the help that you give to the Flat Earth community, the FlatEarthConspiracy.com, the Facebook groups, and how cheerful, smiling, happy, even when people are posting ads for sunglasses on our group page. So thanks for that, and I appreciate it very much, and everybody else does too. And until next time, sayonara and free our flat Earth. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.